Hello and welcome to your monthly Abyss and Imaginarium Theater review. This time we are covering the 5.8 or August 2025 Abyss and Imaginarium Theater. This is our last Natlan patch before Nodacry, so how is Natlan going to wave us goodbye with its Abyss? Well, overall it was not that bad at all, but they did make sure to shill Natlan DPSs one last time before we move on to the next gimmick to shill. And speaking of that, two things before we start with the details. 1. Please, if you enjoy the video, give it a like and sub to the channel to help it out. And 2. It unfortunately seems like the Nodacry Lunar Reactions gimmick is basically Night Soul 2.0. Since we now have more details on how the lunar stuff works, we can confidently say that it's another Night Soul situation, with both steps in the right and wrong directions. The reason for that comes from the skills of the units themselves. You would think that, oh, okay, the lunar reactions are buffed up versions of the base ones, and yeah, that is one part of the case, but the other part is within the skill descriptions is the damage caused by them being direct lunar reaction damage. So instead of Nodacry characters adding up these special reactions to their own damage, they instead deal reaction based damage, literally like Night Soul. It's literally like that. Like, what's the difference between every other character and Natlan characters is that it's that there's a check if it's Night Soul or not, and that's how you get the 75% Night Soul damage buffs. And it's literally like that. It's not just, hey, you can now do some extra reactions on top of everything. No, the skills literally say deal lunar reaction damage. So it's Night Soul again. And with that, we see what MiHoYo has done to differentiate the situation compared to Night Soul. In the Abyss, and hopefully events and stuff that contain buffs, they will give us damage buffs to both the base reaction and the lunar version. So while right now the electro-charged and lunar-charged buff isn't really that useful, in the future if we get something like Lunar Vaporize, hopefully, the buff will greatly benefit every other Vaporized DPS, because it will basically be the same thing. But of course, if they choose every other transformative reaction, then it's going to be bullshit. That is when MiHoYo is taking steps to the right direction, but as said, they also do the opposite, because in order to have Nodacry characters to full power, you need, thankfully they did lower this, 2 Nodacry characters in the team. This is much more problematic for Imaginarium Theater because of the stupid RNG that can hit you with characters, and for the early Abysses, because if you plan on pulling for both Flints and Lauma, anyway, you're not going to be able to run both of them in the next Abyss unless you pull for Inefa, because you won't have enough characters to fulfill this requirement. And this is, like, it's for everything. Fucking artifacts need this 2 Nodacry character requirement, and character kits mainly. So, what a situation. I won't get into the new enemies. We will see how they use those guys in the Abyss and Imaginarium Theater. Hopefully they don't, but I significantly doubt that. And if you've seen how the new enemies work, you know how bullshit it's going to be. Like, it's going to be, I think, even worse than Night Soul requirement enemies. Like, holy shit. Alright, let's now begin the review. Next time, we will cover the early floors, 9 and 10, and also I do hope they reset us to have to do those floors. I mean, it makes sense. This is the only time they will change, so experience them at least once, right? Even if they don't, though, even if they reset us, even if the Abyss, the next Abyss comes up and 9 and 10 are completed, I will complete them myself, right? I won't just skip them so that I give you the viewer, the beautiful tips that you need. If they actually change them, because I actually did not see many changes to 9 and 10. I did not notice them. Anyway, so let's begin with floor 11. 11-1 is a monolith defense, and it's a very easy one that will bring lots of joy, because the first half is 42 treasure hoarders. I mean, yeah, it's a fuck ton of enemies, but they all spawn literally next to the monolith, so anything will just obliterate them. Like, literally, anything. This is just number hell and reaction hell, I think, right? They made this for Chaska and Lunar Charge with Inefa, but again, anything will just make these just disappear, and it's just have fun, generally, just have fun. The second half is just 3 Natlan automatons spawning in one by one, and they fully aggro on you even if you're on the other side of the arena, so most likely they will never touch the monolith. So, superbly easy monolith defense. 11-2 follows the multiple enemy trend with 12 Fontaine mechas in the first half, but they are split between the small dog ones and the gunner ones, so once again superbly easy, while the second half is super weird because it's 2 enemies only, and it's just a fluid avatar of lava, so the one that always has pyro, and then a Fontaine construction mecha. Like, wait, this combo doesn't make any sense. And finishing off with 11-3, once again, lots of enemies in the first half with 13 enemies split between Nobushis and Kairagis, and the second half is 4 Ruin Guards and Graders. Like, huh? Ruin Guards? And what, for whom? I'm pretty baffled, honestly, on this one. The first halves make sense. As said, Chaska is in the banners, and Inefa with Luna Charged loves these multiple enemy chambers, but the second halves, even if they build them for Mualani, for like single target, which is what she is made for, the enemies are way too simple, and the combos such as the 11-2 one make no sense. So floor 11 is an absolute breeze. The first halves are destroyed by anything AoE, and the second halves are so simple that any team obliterates them. So, with a super easy floor 11, is floor 12 hell or also easy? Well, first up are the buffs, and I did kind of spoil them. The first half's buff is a 75% damage buff to Electro Charged and Lunar Charged, and the second half's buff is Night Soul, also 75%. Again, they had to shield. There's Chaska and Mualani in the banners, so you gotta shield Night Soul. So, enemy lineups now. 12-1 begins okay. The first half continues the trend from floor 11, and we have a bunch of enemies in it. 12 enemies, all are Eremites with some Spirit Spawners sprinkled in. Pretty easy, honestly, even with the Spirit Spawners having their resistances, and they all spawn next to each other, so any kind of AoE will delete them. For the second half, though, we have an enemy plus boss chamber with 1 fluid avatar of lava, followed by the fat fucking Mountain King. The second halves are mostly built for Mualani, but anything works against this chamber. Just remember to have some pyro to use the Mountain King's fruit mechanic. 12-2 once again continues with a lot of enemies in its first half, with 12 again enemies, this time even easier than 12-1 with ruin enemies. There's 9 basic ruin enemies, with the last 3 being ruin drakes, the grounded version, so they are extremely easy. But there's a reason why it's easier than 12-1, because second half is once again an enemy plus boss chamber, and this time it's a way up before the boss, because of course you want to shield Natlan. There's no better way than way ups. This one's a pyro way up. You might want to save up energy from 12-1 to have it when the way up spawns to destroy its shield, but it's a fucking way up, and everybody hates their shit. After it is the Terror Shroom, and yeah, it's not the hardest boss by a mile, but if it decides to do some bullshit, it can ruin your day quite easily. While you're most likely not running Electro to make it run around, you are running Pyro because of the Mountain King, and even with that, it can be a bitch, like in the background footage where it decided to just walk backwards from all of my stuff that is set up. So yeah, you can get unlucky. And with the way up here, it can be an annoying chamber that you lose for just a few seconds. And finishing off with 12-3, the first half makes a complete 180 turn with a single boss, that being the new Electro Charged and Lunar Charged shield boss, which is the Cactus local legend boss from the new area. So, this guy is actually okay. You don't need Lunar Charged, it is the shield Lunar Charged, but Electro Charged works perfectly fine. It's not that bad at all. And the need for Electro Charged is kind of annoying, but you should be able to fit in 1 Hydro and 1 Electro character in a team. If you aren't specifically playing an Electro Charged team like the one in the background footage, you can easily try something like Overvape. Just get a Pyro carry, get a Hydro character because they're vaporized carries, and then grab an Electro character like Official or something, and you'll trigger Overvape and work. Like this, it will work on this boss. But, big but, how does this guy's mechanic work? because I have seen some confusion, and I was confused myself when I first went up against him in the overworld even. So, the fight begins with him splitting up into 3 hats, which will then start changing places with each other. First thing is that the hats are completely invulnerable when they do this, when they are switching with each other. And second is that when the hats spawn, the hat where the boss was is the real one. And you will see and hear a big difference when you hit the real hat, because you will see a face pop on the hat, and the boss will also make sounds when you hit it. So when the fight begins, track the real hat, they will switch a maximum of 3 to 4 times, and then hit the real hat with electrocharged. This will slowly chip on the shield, but what matters most is hitting the real hat, because each hat has another bar that fills up, and when the real hat's bar fills up, it takes a big chunk from the shield. Once the shield breaks, he takes a huge amount of damage. We're talking about 40% maximum HP in damage, and with that, the boss is pretty easy. He does have some pretty annoying attacks that fill up the entire arena, because he never has a shield and we're selling lunar charge, so you know how it goes. But depending on your skills and characters, you should be good. He does have another bar when not in hat form, but I have never seen it do anything. I do believe, based on Stygian Onslaught experience, that filling the bar makes him not go into the hat phase. And yeah, you should be able to kill him before a second hat phase. If he does do it, you will be very, very tight on time for the chamber. As for the second half, of fucking course, they couldn't say goodbye without this fucker, because it's the Secret Source Automaton boss that needs fucking Natlan characters for its bullshit. Honestly, climbing the pillars has become the least of my problems on this fucker. My main thing is that it has a fuck ton of resistances, and the only way to lower them is to quickly trigger the pillars, and you need Night Soul for that. Fuck that. And this fucker is the reason why you mostly cannot allow the cactus to go into another hat phase. Because if you don't have Natlan characters for this guy, you will use up most of your time on him. To be very honest, I did this guy with double Geohuto. That is because I had a pretty good team on the first half, but even then, double Geohuto, motherfuckers. And that's floor 12. The first halves are pretty easy, but the 180 they pull at the end is kind of annoying mostly, because it limits you in quickly doing the Abyss. Because you could easily just get a fucking Xiao to obliterate all of the first halves, but he's not going to run Electrocharge. He doesn't run Electrocharge. I mean, you could put like a Furina and a Raiden, I guess, to do the boss, and I guess it would work if you have a C6 Faruzan mostly. But yeah, like you could easily just quickly steamroll the first halves, but then they just had to put this motherfucker there. And as for the second halves, they are all bosses with not the simplest enemies at all before them, but the bosses, with the exception of you know which one, are pretty easy, and unless they pull some BS out of their ass, you should be good, because they really had it out for the teams I used for the background footage. They really hated the Risley and Xiao teams, and they just wanted to do everything annoying thing that they could. And that is the Abyss. They had to do some Natlan shilling before leaving, but thankfully, it's not that bad. With the only exceptions being the Way Up and the Automaton boss, there isn't any super time-wasting bullshit. Well then, time for Imaginarium Theater, huh? This time, the element combo was horrendous. We got Electro, Cryo, and Anemo. What the fuck were they smoking? We're literally talking about the second worst combo we could get. Because the only thing you can do is fucking superconduct, and I'm pretty sure nobody's running superconduct in 2025, or just pure Electro or Cryo DPSs. And boy, oh boy, it gets better. This was the first time for me that I didn't have a single character from the starting cast, or I didn't have them leveled up enough to use them. And while I have kind of been through this in previous times by having only 1 or 2 characters, I genuinely do not wish upon you to have to use all of the trial characters, especially in a super shitty element combo like this one. I am not kidding when I tell you that I couldn't do the first fucking act because the characters were so bad in stats and builds as well. Like, all of them had horrendous builds. And also, because they completely bait you in the starting act by showing you, oh, it's just slimes in the first act, but then you start it and they want you to kill 50 of them with this horrendous element combo and starting cast. Yeah, fucking bullshit. And as for the special characters you can get only if you have them, there was Neuvillette, Xingqiu, Gaming, and Ahita, which it's characters that you must have, so you know that they're gonna be powerful. As for the bosses, they weren't that bad, honestly, but the horrendous starting cast and element combo could kick you in the crotch quite well. First boss was the Terror Shroom, quite easy, followed by the PMA, the Perpetual Mechanical Array, also quite easy, and then the last boss of the normal difficulty was Kenki, also fine, although it depends on which version of Kenki it decides to be, where it might have some cryo or anemo resistances, which is two of the elements we got in the rotation. And the last boss of Visionary mode was Swanee, who was pretty easy because you need just a little bit of cryo, which, you know, is in the main elements, so he ends up pretty easy. And that's the Imaginarium Theater. While the bosses were nothing significant, the element combo and starting cast were one of the worst we will ever get. Like, the worst one would most likely be Electro, Cryo, and like Dendro, not even Dendro, because you can do Aggravate, Geo. Like, that's it. Electro, Cryo, Geo. We literally got the second worst one with Electro, Cryo, and Anemo. Like, holy shit. Like, you can't even run in FI in this one. Anyway. And that completes the review for the 5.8 or August 2025 Abyss and Imaginarium Theater. We are getting into Nodecry, and anything that needs saying I already mentioned in the beginning, and I most likely will also mention in the next Abyss and Imaginarium Theater review, and most likely in the character reviews, because, I mean, you gotta be kidding me. We got Yuichi Nakamura, people. I ain't dodging this guy. We also have Varka with Sugita, and perhaps Durin as well. Like, I am finally stacked on pull plans compared to Natlan, where I literally pulled nobody. The only 5-star I have from Natlan is Kinnich. Nobody else. Everybody else is a 4-star, which is Odoron and Ifa. Yay. I fucking hate this region. Anyways, yeah, we're stacked. Like, again, they pulled fucking Sugita and Yuichi Nakamura. Like, they know they want to sell. Most definitely. As for anybody else, I might review the free Aino that we're gonna get, because he's gonna be needed for everything until, I guess, Columbina. So we'll see you in the 5.8 version review, where we have a lot to go through, actually. We got so much stuff to talk about, so be ready for it. Goodbye.